Hello everyone, and welcome back to another WARNO Deck Deep Dive. This time featuring a division that has been heard by people calling it trash ever since the DLC was shown off. And I think that is unjustified. Because I believe, and I have had experience with this division against me and with it, that this division is not all that bad actually, and it's a pretty solid B tier kind of division. And that is the MNAD. It has a couple of units that you really should avoid that are pretty shit, but the division itself is not. And we're gonna go into it and we're gonna have a look at why that I believe it isn't that bad and what it can do in the next video when we have the gameplay with it. So starting in the logistics tab, we have the Sultans and the Fallschirmjäger Führer. Sultan cheap and affordable and numerous, and the Fallschirmjäger Führungsiltis here as affordable forward deploy recon CV that still gets you through as well. And then we have the Rovers and the Karaka ammunition. Could consider taking the Unimox instead, like going with this setup. I believe that is pretty fine as well. Though the Unimox pay extra for the forward deploy, which for fly vehicle is not that helpful, and you get a lot of Kraka around, and the 300 for supplying infantry and light vehicles is actually a decent package. Artillery tab in this deck is only a small little 105mm and some mortars with the cluster ones that actually are pretty good if you use them with the guidance, then they are really accurate. Then 2 or 3 of them actually can kill vehicles decently fast, which for the price point is solid. But you need to use them with the guidance system and some recon around. Otherwise, the spread is just too big. But you have enough recon units to get that going. Infantry tab obviously is where this division shines, and it has a couple pretty solid infantry units there. Starting with the Paracommando, which with Smoke and Law is a pretty solid leader. Forward deploy, which you really pay for, but that also means that you can get a couple extra points early on. The Marina with 3 MGs for 45 points with 10 strength. Really good anti-infantry unit. Can reinforce infantry fights quite quickly thanks to the UH-1D as well. And the UH-1D also can be a decent little fire support unit for some infantry fights, but usually you just want to get the Marinas quickly in and then use them there. Gurkhas, I really enjoy as well, as PMGs and 12 hit points mean that they have good fighting capabilities, and they can hold themselves with the low 80 against 1 or 2 vehicles passing by as well. So a strong unit there. Paras, similar, just a bit smaller, but yeah, good unit here as well. You don't get them on the max vet, which is really a nice thing about the Gurkhas as well. And then the Paracommando RL with a good AT weapon, mixing in nicely here as well, with the Minimi. Not the best unit, but a solid infantry squad as well. The Para Engineer, pretty good engineer, 9 hit points, 2 light rifles, and a satchel charge. 50 cal, helping out as well. I'm still liking him a bit more than the 7mm, even though the 7mm buff for sure helped those out as well. Para Gun Group, really great for holding a flank, 55 points. BMGs, they can kill off enemy infantry that tries to rush them nicely. The Carl Gustav means that they can defeat an APC or IFB trying to pass them by as well. So for 55 points, a fantastic flank defender and can help out with fire support for the push for some Para Engineers or so on, for example, as well. That combo goes quite nicely as well. We just want to make sure that they come behind them, but then they are a decent package as well. Maybe slightly overpriced, but that's for the forward deploy. If they would be 50 points, they would be really amazing. And then the Para Milan 1. You get enough Milan 2s, I feel like, in the Recon and Tank tab, but some light IFB APC protection is nice here. And they come in an extra vehicle with more Milans as well, which is the nice thing about these guys, so that you really have enough ATGMs going on for you. As I said, I don't think you need the Milan 2s here, because you get those kind of hard hitters in the tank and recon tab, but some Milan 1s can be nice to just hold the flank and hold it nicely, and get after Unimog you get 2 of those, so you can push back enemy APCs and IFVs decent enough with that combo for 90 points. Pretty fair as well. Tank tab is your vehicle tab. Not really a tank tab, no real tanks here, but you have 3 fire support units, 2 with autocannons, which are both pretty solid. These are currently a bit too pricey for not having smoke or anything like that, so hopefully will get buffed at some point slightly, but it still is an autocannon, and that is helpful, having a 20mm autocannon with good stealth. Like, these things can come out of bushes quite nicely, and can ambush enemy light vehicles. They don't have enough recon running around. And the scimitar hits really nicely as well, can duel with a good amount of IVs out there with the 3-3 combo, and can just come around there, and that's for 45 points. Pretty solid as well. Then you have the Weasel Totus, which with good stealth and 1 armor is a really nice little anti-tank vehicle as well. Same goes for the Striker, pretty decent as well, though only mediocre stealth on these guys, but still that's better than nothing. And yeah, together with the Weasel Toes, you get some nice capabilities against tanks here. Fire not as great though as the Totu. And yeah, the extra MG3 actually sometimes can come in somewhat handy as well if the enemy pushes you. Usually should mix it with the autocannons, and then the MG doesn't really. Recon tab is a strong one too. You have the LSV Milan, good stealth, really fast Milan 2 truck. That is nice. Unfortunately, you can't quite get the LSV 50 cal in, but the LSV Milan already quite nice. As the Scimitar is really nice. The Pathfinders are amazing. Forward deploy 4 medium machine guns. They just shred through enemy infantry squadrons on the medium distance, and that is really lovely. And really strong with the forward deploy, allows you to win those recon fights quite often. And then a bit more affordable recon unit here with the Belgian Eclair Para Commando, which have a plindicide tank rocket launcher as well. That is helpful. 3 MGs there, so they win duels versus other infantry squads as well, similar to the gun group, and that can be pretty helpful. So having an extra infantry unit here is nice. You could consider just taking normal Belgian guys. They have 1 more availability and are another 20 points cheaper, but I feel like the capabilities of dueling with other recon squads of this one is actually a quite nice one in this deck. So, because blinding the enemy with this deck is fantastic, because as soon as the enemy is blinded, they can't do much against your Weasels, they can't do much against all of your support units there, and that is going pretty big. AA tab is the best AA tab of any forward deployed division, and that is really helpful, as you get the Rapier Darkfire as a really solid radar AA. It doesn't have the greatest range, but it has fantastic accuracy and a decent rate of fire and ammo as well here, so the Darkfire really nice. And this Skyguard is a pretty solid little AA piece as well. Radar system as well, similar firepower to a Gepard, and yeah, that is pretty solid here. Getting you for 60 points, the good stealth, pretty helpful as well sometimes, and can shred through enemy helicopters on a good distance, can shred through enemy planes flying over. Get if the Skyguard, the Darkfire, the Skyguards can clean house quite often. Mistral, one of the best manpads as well. That's always the best one, so really solid there as well. From the Belgians here, forward deploy help means that you also can protect your deployment against enemy helicopters, which is important. And then we have a Kraka 20mm. That part is a bit weak. Both the Kraka and the ATMP are not great, but at least it gives you some mobile gun platform to shoot down enemy helicopters with. And that goes pretty hard as well. Helicopter tab, we get Hellarm and BO-105s. Both good anti-vehicle helicopters. Another reason why you don't need hard-hitting ATGMs in the infantry tab, because those are more high-capacity ATGMs here. And one goes a bit faster, one goes a bit harder. So it's a bit of a choice thing as well. If you want to hunt down enemy APCs rushing around, then the Hellarm Lynx is the way to go. If you want to hit enemy heavier tanks that try to push through you, then the BO-105 is the unit of choice. So good, decent options here as well. And then the air tab, we're gonna go with the F-16A AA. This is a pretty solid shotgun fighter. The AM9Ls are decent missiles, and 30% ECM is pretty nice as well. It's not the best thing out there, as no long-range missiles for sure is somewhat frustrating, but it can win against weaker fighters, and it is really good at helicopter hunting as well. So together with the Darkfires, it absolutely is good at finishing off the job. If the enemy gets hit by a Darkfire, is forced back, and you just shoot this out to hit them in the curve on the way back, then you usually get the kill, and that is a decent start. Baiting the enemy into Darkfires of this works decently well as well, and then you can finish them off too. The Buccaneer AT, decent price for what it does. It has only 2 missiles, so not amazing, but the missiles hit hard. Accuracy is not great either, but the enemy has to respect this thing. Otherwise it will one-shot Leo 2s and so on, and that for 175 points is quite a nice deal. The 30% ECM here is nice as well. So all of that is solid. The other Buccaneers at the moment, unfortunately, not as great. LGB not hitting hard enough. The seed plane, seed missile somewhat underperforming, and maybe a bit low ECM for seed as well. And the HE only having 20% ECM. That's some issues here, but it's still a decent combo. Cluster Bomber and Mirage HE here are decent choices as well. The cluster not amazing against heavier tanks, but against everything else, at for 165 points you can't expect much more out of a plane like this. And then the Mirage HE, that's hitting decently hard as well, and boy, stuff quite nicely. So in general, a really solid deck with strengths in the infantry tab, absolutely, and the light vehicle tab. And if you get early on out there, you can just put light forces with light vehicles into any enemy weak spot and just annoy the living hell out of that. Especially on some maps, this can be such a frustrating thing to play against, that on the medium distance, you just shred through all enemy infantry. So in CQC infantry fights, you need a bit of help and so on, and obviously against heavier tanks, you want to get them ambushed with the Weasels, with the Lynx, with the BO-105s, but you can run around them usually quite easily, and you can create a lot of issues early on all across the board for the enemy, and they will have to decide and make the right choices, otherwise they just get punished here. So yes, I really enjoy MNAD. I think they're highly underrated, as people call them basically useless, which they really aren't. There are units like the Vulture Makers that are a bit too weak. I think the Weasel is somewhat underperforming as well, and stuff like that is not amazing. And as I said, it's for sure not S tier, as it for sure has matchups where it will struggle a bit, but the core baseline that you can create with this deck at the moment is absolutely fine, and that is what counts here, and that is why it is a BT Division. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Have a great day.